Welcome back to the Viewer's Voice. Now, a previous episode of mine, I believe episode 2 or 3, I briefly covered the lack of parental acknowledgement or accountability even. Now, in this episode instead of covering it from the parent's perspective, I'm going to more so be covering it from the perspective of the youth, right? Meaning, I'm going to be talking about the lack of accountability and acknowledgement within the youth. Right, because just as much as it takes the parent to strengthen, right, and support the bond between parent and child, it also takes the child. Right now, sometimes it could easily, instead of being the parent blocking all communication between the child, it could very much so be the child blocking off any kind of part of communication, right, and authority coming from the parent, right. Now you might see this more in, obviously, like I said, adolescent years, teen years, where children start to try to rebel, right? But overall, when you allow this to become a habit to try to take the authority away from your parents or anyone else in power, in that matter of fact, whether it be teachers, other guardians, whoever, right? It becomes very unhealthy for you, and before you know it, you're just blocking off all your loved ones for no apparent reason. All because you're tired of being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, so on and so forth. Alright, now certain things like this have limits. Of course, we don't want to be reprimanded and told how and what to do all the time. That's very understandable. But you have to also understand that as a parent, it's also their job to make sure that you're doing the right thing. Right? And especially in your adolescent years, you aren't always aware of between right and wrong. So it's very easy to make mistakes, right? Most parents should understand and will understand when you do make a mistake, and they won't just beat you down for it, right? But they also want to make you remember that's important to try to avoid those mistakes, because some of those mistakes can have heavy consequences. They are not saying this to just stay on you, right? To piss you off, to annoy you, right? To do whatever. They're just trying to play the parent role. And as a child, it's important that you play the child role and listen. Now, yes, you could speak back. You could give your 2 cents every now and then, right? If you're going to do it in a respectful manner and explain your side rather than try to argue it or try to block whatever they're saying because it doesn't fit your perspective, right? It's not okay to do that, right? And I feel like the same way I was talking about how parents lack that same accountability and acknowledgement for the way their children act, sometimes it's not on them. It's also very much on the students, because at the end of the day, despite what your parent does, it's still up to you to make the right decisions. They can't make every decision for you. It's still up to you to know what to do and when to do it. So if you think it's okay to just slack off whenever you want to, have no priorities, right, not do the things that you need to do, then only you can make a decision whether or not you want to keep doing that, keep sticking to that awful routine and schedule and that mindset, or if you want to get your act together. They can only do so much reprimanding, but if you're not listening to them, if you're not trying to incorporate their words into what you need to start doing, it will never change, right? Picture it like this. When teachers tell you that you need to get your grades up, try to hold you after class, try to send emails home, so on and so forth, they can really only do so much. They can only do so much in terms of making sure that you do what you need to do, trying to get your parents to get you to do what you need to do. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of whether or not you want to put that pencil to the paper, right? If you don't want to do the work, it will never get done. You can't just pass off your homework assignment to your parent, and you're definitely not going to be able to pass it off to your teachers, right? Now, if there are certain reasons as to why you can't get to A, B, C, and D, I guarantee you, given a proper explanation, both sides will understand it. Or if you tell your teacher that, I can't do this, been struggling with something at home, just got out of a relationship. Most teachers, maybe not all, but most, will probably understand that. They'll probably give you another day before the deadline, right? They'll probably understand where you're coming from, because things happen. They won't just expect you to still be able to turn this in because you and your classmates may not all be on the same page, right? Your classmates might be able to turn that in when the deadline is due. But like you said, you got some things going on. They can respect that. And for you, you get a little bit of special treatment because it's understandable. Your classmates understand. And if you explain the same thing to your parents, after all, you have been getting your work done, they will probably understand too. But it takes communication, and it takes you knowing whether or not what you do is right. Now, if you're just lying, right, to try to get out of something, you know that's not right. But if you have a valid reason, I'm pretty sure people could see that and people will understand that. And as a parent, that's where your part of accountability and acknowledgement comes in. Acknowledge that they're not doing the best. Acknowledge that they need to be doing better. But also take accountability for what you need to do. Right? If you've been on them the whole time, right, understand that you being on them may not be beneficial for what they need. Understand that you just need to support them, give them a little bit of breathing room, and maybe the rest of the pieces will just fall in line automatically. Right? Because the more you try to just breathe over someone's neck, over their shoulder, the more uncomfortable they start to feel, and the more they can slip up very easily. Right? It's like if you're performing a task, right, and your mentor or whoever is legit just standing behind you the whole time, making all the pressure and expectations skyrocket. Right? Opposed to if you were just in a room by yourself, given a task, you may perform much better because it's not that stress, it's not that pressure or anything. It's just a matter of how you could perform and then what you can deliver when it's time to give it to that person, right? But like I said, it's about accountability and understanding what you need to do. Now, I feel like a lot of people nowadays don't understand what they do, and that's fine. If you're young, you may not know, like I said, you may not know what's between right and wrong. That's where you have to listen to your parents and realize that they do know because they've lived a life before. They're still living their life, right? Don't just think that they never experienced what you experienced or that they would understand or that they would get it, because even if it's different times or different situations, the principles still carry over despite what it is, right? So I guarantee you, even if your teacher in your English 3 class is different from her teacher when she had English 3 and the schools are different, whatever, the principles still apply. Maybe you were in a relationship taking that class and y'all got out of a relationship and broke up very severely, and maybe she had the same instance, right? So it doesn't change anything because, like I said, they lived a life, still living a life. They understand where you're coming from. Just communicate, right? Don't just shut them out or assume that they know nothing about you, or just assume that they don't know what's best for you because you may not know what's best for you, right? And like I said, I've seen a lot of people who really don't know what's best for them. They may believe it, they may think they do, but through time you will realize that it really was not, and that you should have took the advice when it was right in front of you. Because like I was also saying, accountability comes in 2 different ways and 2 different forms from 2 different people. It's not all up to one person to be accountable and take responsibility for everything. That's not fair to them, right? Like I said, even if it's not just you, right, that gets to be the victim, you still gotta take accountability for what you done and the part that you played. Because we all play a part in everything, right? Don't think just because you didn't commit as much of a crime that it still doesn't apply to you, right? Think of it like guilty by association in a sense, right? Let's say it's you and someone else, right? And they were beating someone up very badly, very brutally, right? And when the police came, right, the person that did most of the harm, they had to take responsibility and they had to be accountable for what they've done and the punches they threw and the kicks they threw as well, right? Now let's say you just sat there, right, recording, maybe not recording, maybe we just watched, right? You didn't commit any crime per se, right? Because you didn't attack, you didn't do anything to make the situation worse, but at the same time you didn't do anything to make it better. You didn't pull the person off of the person that was fighting, right? You didn't try to help by any means. You weren't the one that called for authorities to come help, right? You just sat there and be a bystander, right? And like I'm saying, you didn't do anything to begin with, but that also is the problem, not doing anything, right? You have to be accountable for where you went wrong. Yes, you didn't do anything essentially that was negative, right? But not doing anything good is just as negative to begin with, right? So try to translate that and put that in any other's perspective. Let's say you had an argument with your parent, right? And they were just throwing absurdities at you and just doing anything that they can to fully get all their anger out with you and all that, right? And in retaliation, you stormed out the house, right? Now, maybe in the moment, what you did was best for you because you didn't want to lash out. You didn't want to say anything that you may regret coming back into the house. So you just left. You didn't want to speak. You just walked out the house, slammed the door, and kept pushing, right? And let's say you didn't feel like going back into a house with such intensity. You stayed out of friends, right? Now, yes, it is up to the parent to be accountable and acknowledge what they did, right? What hurt you and what led up to you storming out, right? But as the child, understanding that you played a part too. You stormed out. You slammed the door. You did not come back. You went to stay with a friend, and you did not let anyone know, right? In your mind, you did nothing wrong, right? And a lot of people could probably agree you did nothing wrong, but essentially, it wasn't the best option either, right? Even if storming out wasn't that negative, you still were gone for at least a night and didn't let anyone know where you were, if you were safe, so on and so forth. That's still a very bad thing. That's why I'm like, accountability takes two. Comes in different ways, but regardless, it needs to come from both people, right? And realizing that in some form, in some fashion, you may have done wrong. That's why I made an episode on this and an episode on the previous one about parents, because it's not just up to the parents to make all the right decisions. It is up to you too to realize that you need to make the right decisions, because not every decision that comes in your life can they make for you. But I would say this episode is gonna be a short one, so I'm gonna keep it at this for this episode. If anything, when I return to make the next one, either I'll do a continuation about this or kind of a mix of the parents as well, and just hone in on ways that you can be more accountable and acknowledge your mistakes and try to do better for your children, or as a child, do better in terms of being a child, right? To benefit your parents and not make it as hard for them. But that'll be all for this episode. I'll see you on the next one.